Alright Greg, welcome to the tutorial. So, just a few things you need to know. So we'll start off with the basics. So it's a 4.7 stroker, it has big valves. It is the base stroker engine from Titan Motorsports up in Ocala, Florida. I did opt for the bigger valves. They said you can run mid-grade or higher with this engine. Parts that are different in here. So things that are different, master cylinder is from a Dodge Ram 1500 pickup truck. That is different. Water pump is a flow cooler water pump, so it's a high performance water pump, has better low flow capabilities than the stock one. The thermostat is a 160 thermostat that's in this right now, so this thing is set up for summer. And winter I recommend you switch it over to a 180 thermostat. It definitely makes a bigger difference on the heating ability of the engine. The coolant was done last winter into summer, so you're good on that. It's got a new radiator, belts are good, air filter's good, I already checked that, fluids are all good. Engine oil. So this thing likes ZDDP. I'm going to give you one in the back in the trunk. There'll be a bottle of it. This engine is a flat tappet design from, basically the 60s, and it carried on in through the 90s. Modern oils do not have enough ZDDP. The oil that I like to run is the VR1 synthetic when I'm doing a lot of off-roading. So right now it has 20W50 VR1 synthetic racing oil in it, with a little ZDDP additive into it. Otherwise 10W30 and just run ZDDP, whatever good brand you like. You've got until May before this stuff should come out. I don't like to run the VR1 racing oil for very long. It doesn't have as much cleaners in it. So whereas normally synthetics last about a year, I run this stuff like 3 or 4 months and then I change it out. So then that way I don't have to worry about deposits in the engine. The oil you'll see looks super fresh because I did it before we started all the training for Judd in January. So it's got maybe 500 or 600 miles on it, but I would still change it next month. Cables. So this one here is for the main box. So this is your main breaker for all of your add-ons. Okay, there's another one of these in the center console. This is your radio fuse, just your typical audio fuse. Okay, all 3 of your main power cables come here. Everything is double-aught welding cable, military lugs on your battery. This is your whole setup for all of your accessories. So fog light, bar, comp, rear, front. These are your lockers. This is your compressor. This is your front bar. These are your front fog lights. Everything's run off of the bus bar setup. All of your fuses are over here. Easily seen. You can tell exactly what they are. Okay. If something is not working correctly, you'll be able to find your blown fuses up here. If something major goes, there is a fuse block down here with a circuit breaker reset. Okay, it's underneath the receiver dryer. Okay, you just have to reach down and flip it and it'll reset itself. She got a fresh tune-up before Judd. She's running Duralast Gold wires, cap, rotor, all that is brand new. All of your regular parts on this engine, all your factory parts are almost entirely Duralast, so they all have a lifetime warranty. So you should only have to pay for spark plugs for this thing and swap everything else out every time you go. You just got to use my phone number. The compressor is also Duralast. You have 2 new hoses in the back. We think it's this one is leaking or this one. We're not sure. The guy told me after he did it that one of the Schraders was leaking and I need to replace the hoses. They're all one assembly, so I was like, okay. So I bought it, and I also brought it a new high pressure line as well. I haven't done it. It's not my daily driver, so I've just been filling it up when we go wheeling with Freon. So the power steering setup. So this is a stock Cherokee box. Okay, it's running Redline fluid for power steering. It has a cooler, which is right here on the front. On this side, it's really hard for me to do this with this camera because it's not wide laying. Anyways, it's right here on the front. It goes from the box, or I'm sorry, from here down to the box, down to the cooler, and then down to the hydraulic ram assembly. While we're on the subject, so this is a farm hydraulic jack. Okay, the thing that's nice about it is when I did this, I thought about this two different ways. I'm still using the stock mounting location, so you could swap this back out for a regular bar later. You could upgrade this to a PSC unit if you wanted to. This is a PSC angle, so this will go right onto a PSC unit. The only difference is I didn't want to mess down here with welding in a new bracket and everything else. I wanted to take the weight off the steering but not take it away completely. I think it's a pretty good setup. When you're driving, it's definitely got a different feel than a normal box because it is hydraulic assist. But once you figure out the neutral, and you just have to be very light on the steering wheel and kind of let the truck go where it wants to go, it goes straight down the road. One of the biggest things that I noticed was I was overcorrecting a lot with the steering because it had no feedback. It now has decent feedback, especially for a hydraulic assist unit. It just doesn't feel like your Honda Civic, it doesn't feel like my Willys Jeep, doesn't feel like my van. It's just different. But it goes straight down the road. All right, other things. You've got, I forget who made the exhaust manifold. So this is a header setup. It's a 2-into-1. It goes into a 2.5-inch downpipe, and then it's 3-inch all the way back after that. This is a larger throttle body. You've got upgraded fuel injectors. These are not stock. ARB compressors here. Your diff breathers, these are right here. So all of your diffs are raised. All of your breathers go through hard plastic lines up to here. When you're looking, there's a main harness that runs along the side of this frame rail all the way back, along with the brakes, and then drops down. One is the breather, one is the wires for the rear locker, or one is the rear air locker line. They run together. I did it that way for two reasons. One, if you ever get a break in your air locker line and you're stuck, you can switch and use your diff breather line in order to get home and off the trail if you need lockers, because it's all the same tubing. So I did that specifically to have a backup. The other thing is it's cheap. So if anything ever happens, you're out there, it breaks, you can find a replacement pretty easy. You've also got a lot of tubing to work with to make a new one if you need to. So like if the front one breaks, you can use the other line. If not, then you can swap it around to get it to where you need it to be. I think that's about it up here. Synthetic line winch, plugs on the side right here. We'll move around underneath to talk about the rest of the suspension. So it's an Iron Rock off-road long arm kit. It's got the raised skid plate. You'll notice front and rear Adams, or Tom Woods drive shafts. I'm sorry, not Adams. So those are all custom. Those are the X-Spline, I believe. They're the longer travel ones. So you'll notice this thing's got a ton of suspension travel. The front suspension's 6.5. It is limited by the shocks in the front. In the rear, you're just limited by spring travel. It's got full suspension travel all the way up and down. Yep. So your joints, these are Johnny joints. They are greasable. There's greasing joints up here and all over the place. Please make sure you grease them like every time you do your oil changes. All right, so in here, you've got down to the right, that is for your lights, for your rock lights, okay? The rock light button on, off, always has power, okay? So just be careful you don't leave it on. Center stack, you've got all your switches. Biggest thing with your ARB compressor and your ARB lockers, you really don't want to be on power when you're putting these on. You can roll while in 4 low or 4 high and turn them on, so you can always turn the compressor on. They're always on. I did that purposefully. Once the compressor kicks off, then you can engage your lockers. You'll hear the compressor kick back on again. Okay, it will cycle every 2 to 3 minutes. That's normal operation. If you hear it cycling more often than that, it's going to be a seal down in the diff. And they do wear out over time. So these are only like 2 years old, a year and a half. And they don't get used except for off-road, so you should be good for a long time. Light bar setup right here. You got your front fog light, still the same. What else was there? There was something else. Oh, rear wiper. It doesn't work. The motor's good, everything back there works, the wiring's back behind here. I just got rid of it because with the tire and everything else, there's really no reason to be, you can't really see anything out the back anyways. You've got the rear camera set up to do that if you need be. So that makes a big difference there. I'll show you some of the functions in the radio. Alright, so it's a Jensen fold out 7-inch. It works pretty good. It is a first gen with CarPlay, so it's not as fast as the brand new stuff, but it's still pretty nice. There are a couple other newer radios that are faster than this one that you can get now. Kind of just up to you. I think this is great. So, main menu just for your camera. You can do audio, video in, whatever. There's CarPlay. So, like I said, it's not terribly slow. So, it's just a little slower than the regular. Over here, a couple quick things. So this big cable right here, it's an audio video cable. So it's an HDMI cable. So with an HDMI adapter, you can plug in other things. The screen will play DVDs. It will play Xbox if you want it to. And it is linked to the back screen, which is right there. And that flips down, you can watch movies. We had it that way for when the kids were little. We actually thought about turning it around the other way so you could do stuff while at camp. The only other little wire is that little one, which I just haven't tied up because I just didn't. And that's for the PA. So it's got a PA system, so you can announce things when you're on the trail, or talk to other trail guides, or talk to people outside the vehicle while you're doing it. I think that's about it. You've got a ton of extra parts in the trunk. Let's move back there and I can show you these extra parts. Gas can, solid steel, Midwest. You got an extra strap in the box. This is so when you pour it in, it's easier to pour into the tank. Infinity amp, sub. I'm giving you a couple of these just for, oh, you're texting me right now. Until you get the line fixed. You got the 2 lines right here. You got your mud mats. Giving you a little extra power steering fluid just in case you need it. That's the other power steering setup, so right now it's got a stock Cherokee one. That's a Grand Cherokee from a WJ. It puts out a lot more pressure than that one, even with the mods that I've made to the pump. So just be aware if you want to do bigger tires on this, because it will fit 37s, believe it or not, as is. You just need to bump stop it a little bit more. I would recommend going to this pump, but I would really be very careful about running 37s and putting on the lockers, because you will break axle shafts. They are chromoly axle shafts all the way around. You've got 30 spline inners up front, and you've got 29 spline in the back on this Chrysler 8.25 rear. Okay? Just be aware that this is really well set up for 35s. If you jump up to a 37, your risk of breaking things goes up. You could still break things on this, but it's a lot less likely the way it is right now. Brakes wise, right now I'm running Performance Friction brakes. They are the Power Stop truck brakes for towing. I like them. The only downside is they only last about 3 years driving regularly, maybe less, because they are a performance friction pad. I do have a set of Duralast Gold pads in there, front and rear, so if you need brake pads, you've already got them. The rear setup is from a Liberty, so it's the first series Liberty, so like the 03, 04 disc brakes. Includes emergency brake, includes caliper, includes all that. Everything swaps right over. So if you're doing brakes on this, the rear is Liberty, the front is stock Cherokee. Another interesting thing about the wheels is these are bi-pattern wheels. So these are 5x4.5 and also 5x5.5. So these will fit on a JL, they'll fit on a JK, and I did that specifically because if down the road you decide you want to go bigger with the tires, you're going to have to really upgrade the brakes. And there's a couple kits out there that upgrade the front brakes on this, but they are 5x5.5 or 5x5, and it's not 5x4.25. The other thing is there's a couple front axle kits that you can make them disconnect axles, which I thought about doing. They're also 5x5. So, and they run a different inner U-joint and things. So these tires are already set up for that. The ribs are. So if you want to do that down the road, you can. I think that's about it. I don't really have much else. Yeah, I think the rest you can kind of figure out. If you have any questions, you can always call me. I'll make sure you got my number. And she's been great. She goes everywhere I've ever pointed it. She's built as built can get and pretty damn reliable, so I don't think you'll have any issues with her. She's never left me anywhere. So anyways, Greg, have a great day.